Hey guys, what's up? It's Rush from RC Sharks, and today we're going to be filming a new video for Project Summit, where we're going to be basically tearing down the truck, getting most of the stuff off the chassis, and giving us a more clean base to start from. So we're going to be taking off the transmission, the front and rear half of the suspension, and basically we're just going to be getting rid of the chassis. So let's get to it. So basically our main goal today is to basically take everything off of this chassis, because we're going to be using a new chassis, and so that means that we're going to have to take off the transmission over here, all of these servos, and we're going to take off the front and rear halves of the transmission, or of the suspension, and we're also going to be taking off bumpers, body posts. Basically everything off of this chassis is going to be gone. So to help us stay organized, we're actually going to be using Ziploc bags. We got a couple different sizes. We got some tape back here and a Sharpie. So basically what we're going to be doing is, when we take anything off of this truck that we're going to be reusing, mainly the screws, we're going to be basically taping it off, putting it in a bag, labeling it so that it stays safe, and we know where to find it when we come to reassemble this truck. Alright, now that we got some of the organizational stuff out of the way, I'm going to talk more about what we're actually going to be using to take apart the vehicle. So here we just have like a random set of hex drivers. So I'm going to try and zoom in on those. And the good thing about those is that they have a ball end on them, so it really allows you to easily get to hard to reach screws. Then we have an X-Acto knife, a little flashlight, which is really handy for checking out connectors and stuff to see if there's any corrosion in them. A little flathead screwdriver, needle nose pliers, and some more hex drivers. Now these are the most common set that I use all the time. Yeah, let's get to taking it apart. So first things first, I'm going to flip this truck around and get all of these skid plate screws out. So looking at it now, it looks like what's going to happen is these skid plates on the outside are going to have to come off first, and then we're going to be able to get this center skid plate off, because it looks like this skid plate is captured behind this skid plate. We got the two skid plates out that were blocking the center skid, so we're going to go ahead and remove all these screws around this and get it out. So I'm not even going to bother removing this access port, because when the skid plate is out, that's not going to do anything. So looks a little bit ugly, but that's going to work. That's going to keep the screws in place so that when we come to reinstall the skid plate, we're going to have all the screws. Now I'm going to be doing that with all the other stuff. I'm not going to be showing you part by part, but this is basically what I do. Alright, so back up top here, we realize there's not actually too much going on top of the transmission. So obviously we're going to get all this wiring out of the way, but I think that the only thing on top that we're going to have to undo is the linkage for the 2-speed trans, and then literally it's just going to be drive shafts, screws, and this whole thing's going to lift right up. Last step down here is going to be to remove these 4 screws to basically push the transmission through the chassis. Alright, now that we got the trans off the truck, we can kind of see what we have to work with. So straight off the bat, I know that I'm going to be replacing both the transmission halves, but we're going to be keeping the stock motor plate, motor mount, and also probably the stock internals. I do know that we're also going to be doing a new heavy-duty slipper clutch on this, because that's probably something that's going to be going bad if we have the brushless setup. So with this, you know, we're going to be replacing a couple things, but this is basically a transmission we're going to reuse in the truck. Alright, so I think I'm going to try and tackle the rear suspension first before I do the front suspension, because the rear suspension is going to be quite a bit easier, I think, because of the fact that it doesn't have any steering involved. So my game plan is to first off remove the shock and then try and go for basically just disconnecting the chassis or the chassis from the suspension and pulling the whole thing away. Alright, next up for me is going to be to remove the two rockers, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and remove the rear bumper screw here, and mostly just try and see what I can do to get this whole thing off without removing that many screws. Basically, with removing the least amount of screws, the easiest way to get it off. Alright, so now we're going to focus on getting this center linkage out for the rear diff, because we've got the rear shock mount out. So now that we've disconnected the rear diff linkage, I'm going to go ahead, flip the truck over, and see what screws we have to take out in order for this whole rear section to kind of come free. Alrighty, so actually looking at the bottom, it looks like there's nothing left to take out here. Could take out the drive shaft, which would probably make it easier to separate, but it doesn't look like a big deal now that we've taken half of it out. So I'm going to flip it back over, undo the remaining screws, and pull the whole section out of the truck. So basically what we're going to have to remove is this screw for the shock mount, or sorry, for the body mount, and then the two screws at the back. And I think after that we should be able to pull the body, or pull the rear suspension assembly away. So let's try it out. Alrighty, so basically what we have here is the rear differential and rear suspension section off of our Summit, and yeah, like everything actually looks like it's in pretty good order. Saw the LEDs on the bumper. This bumper is going to get replaced. This body post is going to get replaced, and then we're going to do a reconditioning on all of this. We're just going to clean it up, sand it down if it needs to be, stuff like that, and most importantly, the locking differential is working on this unit, which is good, and it seems to be nice and strong. So that's our rear diff section, and all of the screws are kind of put back into place just for now so we don't lose them. Alright, so basically what we have here is the chassis, the servos, and the front suspension. So I'm going to go ahead and actually redo the same process we did on the rear and do it to the front. So shocks out, linkage out, remove the front suspension. So let's get to that. I'm probably just going to do a time lapse because, well, this is going to be kind of boring to watch twice. So first step, just like before, remove the two shock screws and try and get them out of the chassis. Forgot to remove the linkage, so we're gonna do that now. So looking at this from the bottom, we're actually gonna have to go ahead and I think undo the servos to get the bell crank to come with the this front suspension assembly. And there's also 2 more screws that we're gonna have to undo, so you can just watch me do that. So to make this a little bit easier, I'm actually gonna replace the screw that we took out from the skid plate and put it back right here. And then continue on taking this all apart. Oh damn, that looks like a mess. Gonna clean all this up and I'll get back to you with the overview of the front half. Alrighty, so here we have our front section. Basically the same as the rear section, good condition. Nothing really to report. So for the bell crank, looks like it's almost brand new, so I think that was replaced, and the bearings in it feel quite good as well. So to this, we're going to be doing new hinge pins, same in the rear, new bearings, cleaning up the rods. I don't know if we can do anything with these arms. I might be getting replacement arms because they kind of bother me how scratched up they are, but you know, it is an RC truck. And we'll be doing something to the drive shaft as well. And here's our front bumper. I think we'll be getting a new front bumper, bull bar. LEDs will be the same, and we'll get a new body mount as well, and that kind of just goes there, and it looks pretty, and it fits well. So, yeah, let's move on to the removal of the servos, which is the last part, thank God, from this procedure. Alright, now we're on to the last part, which is literally just the removal of the servos. I don't think I'm going to be covering it. I think I'm just going to leave the camera in one place and take out all the servos, because it's just 2 screws per servo, or 4 in the bigger servos case, so 4 for these, 2 for the small ones, and that's it. Also going to be taking out the receiver box, but that's like super easy, so. So midway through removing these servos, I kind of realized that I think that this whole bank of servos comes out with these screws over here. So I'm going to try that before I remove the servos from the top. So as I suspected, after removing the 2 screws off the bottom, this whole thing literally comes straight out. Good job with this Traxxas. Alright, last part of the teardown is these vents and the receiver box, because we're going to be getting new servo guard things on the bottom, and we're going to be getting new battery doors. So we're just going to leave those in place because, you know, don't need to take out more screws. So I think to take out the receiver box, you have to take out the cap, and then there's screws inside. And the vents are pretty easy, they're just 2 screws each. After that, we'll finally be done. Done. Now you see them, now you don't. Hey guys, it's finally time to wrap up this video. I seem exhausted, it's because I am. It seemed about 10 minutes to you guys, it's probably about 5 hours real time for me. So basically, started the day with a working roller that we could throw a motor in and run, and now we have parts. Stay tuned for the next video. Basically what I'm going to be doing is going through each component that we took off, you know, the trans, front end, rear end, chassis, refinishing them, putting them back together, and this car is going to look brand new. So stay tuned.